Am I in the wrong for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? Am I the a-hole for firing an employee after his parents died? Am I the a-hole for deleting my friend's wedding photos in front of them? I'm not really a photographer. I'm a dog groomer. I take lots of photos of dogs all day to put on my Facebook and Instagram. It's my thing, if that makes sense. A cut and a photo with every appointment. I very seldom shoot things other than dogs, even if I have a nice setup. My friend got married a few days ago and wanted to save money and asked if I'd shoot it for them. I told him it's not really my forte, but he convinced me and he said he didn't care if they were perfect. They were on a shoestring budget and I agreed to shoot it for $250, which is nothing for a 10-hour event. On the day of, I'm driving around following the bride as she goes from appointment to appointment before the ceremony, taking photos along the way. I shoot the ceremony itself, and during the reception, I'm shooting speeches and people mingling. I started around 11 a.m. and was due to finish around 7:30. Around 5, food is being served and I was told I cannot stop to eat because I need to be photographer. In fact, they didn't save me a spot at any table. I'm getting tired at this point, kind of regretting doing this for next to nothing. It's also unbelievably hot. The venue is an old Veterans Legion and it's like 110 and there's no AC. I told the groom I need to take off for 20 minutes to get something to eat and drink. There's no up bar or anything and I can't even get water and my 2 water bottles are long empty. He tells me that I either need to be a photographer or leave without pay. With the heat, being hungry, being generally annoyed at the circumstances, I asked if he was sure and he said yes. So I deleted all the photos I took in front of him and took off saying I'm not his photographer anymore. And if I was to be paid $250, honestly at that point, I would have paid $250 just for a glass of cold water and somewhere to sit for 5 minutes. Was I in the wrong? They went right on their honeymoon and they've all been off social media, but a lot of people have been posting on their wall asking about photos with 0 responses. Not the a-hole at all. You could have risked your health and they treated you bad. They wanted mates rates but didn't even save you food. Not the a-hole. The dogs are much better people than these friends. Not the a-hole. He told you to leave without pay and you called his bluff. Certainly in no situation here can you be the a-hole. I don't even know like where to even consider that being a-hole at all. Am I the a-hole for suing my parents for my college money? My great aunt set up savings accounts for all of her female relatives. In our culture, education for women is not really valued and she thought that was BS. She lived with her father in London where she was educated. She went on to attend university and became a doctor. She married a British man, they moved to America and had a great life. She funded the education of as many of her nieces and grandnieces as she could. When she passed away, she left money for every girl relative she could. My parents managed to access the accounts that were set up for my sister and I. They used it to pay for my brother's wedding. My sister didn't care because she got married 2 years out of high school and had no intention of going to college. When I graduated, I went to the bank to get money for school and it was almost all gone. There was like $13,000 left. I asked my parents about it and they said they needed the money. I finally found out where the money went. I got furious, I got student loans and moved out. I'm a great source of shame to them and I don't give 2 fricks. I'm currently suing them for the money that was left for me. My entire family is against me and they all think I'm a complete a-hole for airing private family business in public and that I'm putting money ahead of family. My friends are all on my side, but they are all Americans, so don't really get my culture. Neither do I, to be honest. My brother called me up and offered to pay for my university if I dropped the lawsuit. I agreed as long as we had a legally binding contract. He said I was being an a-hole for not trusting him. I said he should not have accepted my money for his wedding. It's causing all kinds of embarrassment in our community. I'm somewhat ashamed to be doing this, but I don't want to have this debt I should not have. Not the a-hole. Your parents stole from you. They're in the wrong no matter how uncomfortable that makes your family. I'm not a lawyer, but if you're in the middle of a lawsuit, it's probably not wise to discuss it on the internet. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Sue their greedy ass into the ground and good luck getting what you deserve. Spoken true. I really don't have anything else to add to that. How could you possibly think you're the a-hole trying to get money back that your parents stole from you that wasn't theirs? Am I in the wrong for throwing them out of the house that we own? Son and future in-laws decided to exclude his family from wedding. They thought son owned the house, not us. My wife and I bought a 4-bedroom house in PA that my son lives in. Our son went to college in PA and wanted to stay in the area, so we bought the house as a second home. We live in New Jersey and commute to Manhattan for work. We figured that we would have a place to live and we could visit every so often and spend some quality time together. We pay the taxes and services / maintenance on the house. Our son pays for his groceries and the house utilities. All was going well for a few years. Our son meets a girl and they get serious. We meet her and she seems nice enough. They announce their engagement and she moves into the house with our son. Now for the problem, the wedding. We hold a little get-to-know-you barbecue at the PA house. My son and daughter are there and our son's fiance and her parents and sisters are there. We all seem to be getting along well. My wife, daughter, and the fiance go into the house along with her mother and sisters and my son. A few minutes later, my wife and daughter come out and are really upset. They come over and tell me that we're leaving and we're driving back to New Jersey. I try to find out what happened, and once we get back to New Jersey and they calm down, they tell me that our son and his fiance, along with her family, don't want us at the wedding. According to what I was told, we're not their kind of people. I was livid. I called my son and asked him WTH this was about. He tells me that her family feel that we are not good enough and will embarrass them at a family wedding, that we are all uninvited from the wedding. I let a week go by to calm myself down and drive back to the PA house. The new future in-laws are in the house along with the fiance. It appears they are all moved into the house. They ask me why I'm there. I tell them that since we aren't invited to the wedding, I was coming over to talk to my son. They tell me to leave their house. I lost it and told them that they had 30 days to get out. Tell my son I'm selling the house and he could find somewhere else to live with all of you. I go to a realtor in town and list the house for sale. They call my son at work and tell him what I said. Apparently, they thought that he owned the house. He calls me and asks why I'm selling his house. I tell him I paid for it along with the taxes on it and it's mine. He was living there rent-free, but since he doesn't want us in his new life, he has to get out. I tell him the same as I told his future in-laws, that they have 30 days to get out and then I'll get a lawyer and get them evicted. Am I the a-hole for taking a hard stance on this? He is my son, but the in-laws seem to take over and we no longer count. Not the a-hole. They all moved into the house? That's so bizarre. Tell them they're not your kind of people, aka squatters. NTA, I actually find it hilarious. He's so entitled to the house he didn't even expect you to take it back after his actions. I believe this is exactly the reality check he needed. Not in the wrong. They're too good for you, but you're good enough to leech off of. They just lost a cushy situation. Am I the a-hole for telling cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card? Throw away, because husband told me I was the a-hole and want to know before I get home and argue. On phone format is bad. I was in a higher end department store today, rhymes with looming tales, and happened to end up next to two teenage girls while shopping. One of the girls had picked out a pair of very expensive boots and they were both fawning over them. Second girl must have looked at the price tag and asked Boots girl if she's really going to spend that much on boots. Girl with boots says something along the lines of, "It's fine, I have my dad's credit card, I'm not paying," which instantly caught my attention because that's not her card. I've told my son multiple times that he's never allowed to use my card, so I'm interested to see how this girl thinks she's going to get away with fraud, but had to split up from the girl at this point because they had found something else. We end up at the same register, me behind, and I see her total hit well over 4 digits. The girl is about to swipe her card when I decide that I can't let her get away with something like this and someone has to parent this kid if no one else will. I tell the cashier that that isn't her card, but her father's, and I'm not sure she has permission. Girl and friend turn and glare at me, giving me possibly the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I swear this girl was going to throw a tantrum right there. I don't think she was ever told no. Girl tells cashier her father gave her the card to shop with because it's the store's credit card and it gives them points. Now that I pointed out it wasn't hers, cashier tells her she can't use that card. Girl tries to show ID to prove they have the same last name. Yeah, that'll help. And I tell her it's still fraud. Girl says it's not fraud because she has permission and tells me to mind my own business. I tell her that it is my business, that she's doing something illegal. She needs to pay with her own card or I call the cops. Girl's pissed now and people are glaring at me. She uses her own card and leaves crying. Cashier looks mad at me and I tell my husband when I get home, only for him to agree I was in the wrong. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Do you usually make a habit of sticking your nose into other people's business? You are the a-hole. You have no idea what agreement she has with her dad and you had no reason to interject yourself. You're the a-hole, but I get a feeling you're still gonna go home and argue with your husband about it and ignore everything you've learned here. Wow, finally! Someone's the a-hole. Jesus Christ, that was terrible. Nosy Nelly Karen ass lady. Get a job. Am I the a-hole for shouting at my ex in front of my daughters? I, 37M, have 3 girls, 8, 10, and 12. Their mother walked out on us for another man when our youngest was around 4. My ex still stays in contact though and pays child support. A few weeks ago while doing laundry, I saw red spots on my oldest's underwear. I asked her if she knew about it and she cried and told me she tried to call her mom, but my ex didn't call back. She'd been stuffing toilet paper in her underwear, hoping that would work. I explained to her that periods are nothing to be ashamed of and found some great resources online for us to review together. I took her to the store to pick out brands of feminine products she wanted to use. She picked Playtex Sport because she's a gymnast. After we were done, I decided I should do the same thing with my other 2. My 12-year-old volunteered to be a part of preparing them, and we made a whole night of it. It was wonderful, and I learned a lot. I even learned what a menstrual cup is and how they benefit the environment. The other day, my ex called back, and I'll usually arrange a video chat and leave the room so they can have some alone time, and when they're done chatting, I'll come back in to talk boring co-parenting stuff like school, bills, etc. This last time, my ex was furious with me for talking about periods with the girls. She shouted at me that I was sick and perverted. Why didn't I call her myself if I knew it was so urgent? I could have called one of their grandmas and aunts, but my mom has dementia, while her mom and sisters call me a loser because I teach kindergarten, so I'm not fond of them. My ex told me I was being immature and should have just toughed it out for the girls. This really pissed me off, so I shouted back that maybe if she wasn't such a deadbeat and answered her goddamn phone once in a while, she could have handled this. I brought up everything she does that hurts them. She hasn't been to a single soccer game, piano recital, or gymnastics meet in 2 years. Every other weekend when they come home from her house, they go straight to their rooms, only to emerge hours later asking me why she loves her new husband more than them. And what do they do to make her leave? My ex responded by saying I should tell them it's not their fault, I couldn't satisfy her, and I screamed, "Frick you!" And she just smirked and pointed behind me saying, "Look what you did." When I turned around, my 8-year-old and 10-year-old were standing in the doorway crying. It broke my heart, and I never shout, so I know I scared them. My 12-year-old stormed in and started screaming at her mom, and while I appreciate her sticking up for me, this is not a battle I want her fighting. My ex hung up before I could fully fully de-escalate the situation, and let's just say the girls have been given free reign of the ice cream and limitless hours of video games because I feel so bad. I haven't watched all the Twilight movies with them, so don't say I don't love them, but in this instance, am I the a-hole for shouting? Not the a-hole. And loads of single dads have to have the period talk. You rock for getting through all the Twilight movies with them. I couldn't even watch one. Not the a-hole. Your ex clearly doesn't give a frick about her kids, and if I were you, I would ask these kids how are things in mom's house. Sounds like a textbook case of neglect. Not the a-hole. It wasn't deliberate. Your ex is a terrible mother, and you sound like an exceptionally wonderful dad. I will never understand how some people can call single dads who give the period talk to their kids sick and perverted. If the mom's not going to be there to talk about the stuff that happens to her with the daughters, what do you expect to do? You're not a sick, perverted person for making sure that your daughters are okay when they have their period. It's not what we're fine. It's fine. It's chill. I'm mad, but it's fine. Am I in the wrong for saying my babysitting rates are $35 an hour? I'm a software engineer with a full-time job and a side hustle of doing freelance coding work in my own time. I've always been the type to have a side hustle I put a lot of my free time into. I get really bored sitting idle. My freelance hourly rates are $60 an hour, and at my full-time job, my hourly pay works out to about $40. So that's how I value my time. Anyway, over Christmas vacation, I was staying at my parents' house, and my cousin was also staying over with their 3 young kids for Christmas to New Year's. I've been planning on doing some work on my freelance projects when I had free time, and in the morning, when my family had no plans. I wasn't in any rush, and I was already ahead of schedule on them all, but I didn't really have anything else to do. It was in a really rural area, and it's like an hour drive to the nearest anything. Then my cousin and her husband asked if I could babysit all day for 3 days, so they could visit some friends in the area and hang out with just adults. I said I had planned on doing freelance work at the library, and she offered to pay me to babysit. I said if they could get close to my freelance rates, she wanted a number, and although my freelance rates are $60, I didn't feel like that was right. It was high, but I didn't want to go too low, and honestly, babysitting 3 kids would be harder for me than the routine coding work I had for my freelance project. I don't know a lot about kids, and I've never babysat for long, and I had a feeling it would be stressful and difficult. So I said 35, which is below what I make hourly at work. What is the bare minimum I'd value my time for, if that time is spent doing difficult work? And she went crazy at me, saying that's a ridiculous rate for babysitting and that I was entitled and being selfish, that I'm trying to take advantage of how she didn't have other options, etc. I said that's way below what I'd be making if I had time to do my own work, and I'd be putting off my own work to babysit. Her husband then got mad at me, saying that I was a 24-year-old girl, that I'm damn near a child myself, and that my time is not worth that much, and it's childish to say that it was, and that I was a stupid girl for not knowing that babysitting costs like $15 an hour. When I grew up and have kids of my own, I will see how stupid I was being. I was kind of done with being called stupid, so I just told them I hope they could find someone else. My mom thinks that I asked for something offensive, and my cousin and her husband obviously did too. Am I the a-hole for giving that number? Not the a-hole. 3 kids all day for 3 straight days? Even real babysitters would charge more than $15 for 3 kids. Obviously they wanted you to do it as a favor and got upset that you treated it as an actual job. Not the a-hole, because asking a kid who is also on vacation to watch your kids for 3 days is kind of crappy. An evening? Sure, but 3 whole days is crazy. Not the a-hole. You are the only one who can put a price on your time because it's coming from your own life. Yeah, I mean, cut and dry, for real. I wouldn't babysit 3 kids for 3 days for $15 an hour. Hell no. I don't know if I could reasonably say 35 because I don't make that much in my own time, but like 25 probably is what I would start at. You know, like, geez. Am I in the wrong for calling my sister's husband useless? My 17F sister, 34F, called me saying that her work had an emergency and she needs to get there ASAP and needed me to watch her kids because no one else can. I rushed over there just to find her husband locked in his game room playing video games. I asked her why she called me over, if he was home, and she said that he didn't want to babysit because it was his only day off. Sister left and I started hanging with the kids. I was changing the baby's diaper and the other kids wanted a snack. I told them to go ask their dad to make them a snack since the baby had a blowout and it was going to take a while to clean him up. Well, their dad sent them back upstairs and told them to ask me again. After cleaning the baby up, I made the kids a snack and their dad came out to eat and told me not to let the kids interrupt him on his day off. By the way, he works part-time from home 6 days a week. I kind of snapped at him and told him it was my day off too and that he's a useless effing father and a husband if his wife has to rely on her teenage sister rather than her own husband. He started telling me that I was disrespectful and didn't understand how hard parenting is. I told him clearly he doesn't understand how hard it is either, since he considers parenting his own children babysitting. He ended up kicking me out and apparently my sister was forced to come home because he told her she needed to figure it out since I'm her sister. I feel like I may be the a-hole because my sister's mad at me, her husband is mad at me, and my mom is mad at me for causing drama. But my dad thinks it's funny and agrees with me. I definitely didn't need to call him names, but I just hate this guy so much. We have argued about things in the past as well, so we already don't have a great relationship. My sister's saying I need to apologize to him and he is threatening to never let me into the kids' lives if I keep disrespecting him. Not the a-hole. Your sister should be mad at her husband for literally not taking care of his own kids. He was already in the house, but she called you instead? Make it make sense. Not the a-hole. I knew everything I needed to know by the he doesn't want to babysit line. Not the a-hole. Her husband sounds like a deadbeat, and you you were right to call him out. I would have left the instant I saw him home. Am I the a-hole for firing an employee after his parents died? Bro. Okay, let's see. You know what? Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out, fellas. Let's hear what he's got to say. I'm the VP of sales at a software company, and one of our sales development reps' parents passed away at the beginning of April. Sadly, they were involved in a car crash and both lost their lives. Now, the employee in question is a very young 22-year-old guy and has been with us for about 10 months now. He's a great employee, and we were thinking about promotions in the next 6 months for him. His job is a high-paying one for a new grad, about $90K with commission and base, so we expect a lot from this position. Because of the accident, we let him take 1 month paid leave of absence from work, and he's returned a few weeks ago, and his performance is severely lacking. He's super unmotivated, not cold calling, outreaching to prospects for the last 2 to 3 weeks enough since he's come back. Our whole management team has noticed this, and we decided to let him go because we feel like he'd need months and months to be able to produce again, and we can't just wait that long. We called him into a meeting on Friday afternoon and gave him the bad news, and he was very calm and rude about it. Told us to go F ourselves and got up and went to his desk and grabbed his things and left. I thought this was very, very unprofessional and extremely rude. I told my boyfriend about all of this, and he said myself and my management team are a bunch of asses and with no hearts. Am I the a-hole? You are the a-hole. Generally, people receive a warning about their performance before they get fired. You gave him bereavement leave and then fired him immediately after because he wasn't performing. You're the a-hole in the most complete sense of the phrase. Yeah, okay. I said hear him out. We shouldn't have heard him out because Jesus Christ. Not a warning, not a coaching session or something. Straight from bereavement back to work to fired. What the hell? What the hell? That is not okay. I hope that guy sues you. Seriously. Wrongful termination for sure. Am I the a-hole for speaking Italian to my GF's rude Italian American family and embarrassing them? Recently, I started dating a girl. She's great and I love her so much. I met her family a few nights ago for dinner and she warned me that the male side of her family is very big into being macho and detesting the boys the women date and are very big on take pride in their Italian ancestry. I think besides the grandfather. However, they were almost all born in Bergen County, New Jersey. But whatever, it's nice to take pride in one's heritage. Long story short, at dinner, they kept making jokes at my expense. I honestly would not call it bullying, just things about my height, beard, shaved head, yada yada. They tried to make fun of my IT job too, but stopped once I told them my income. It was overall not a bad experience, but also not a pleasant one. Anyway, her brother kept pushing things, giving me exceptional amounts of crap for playing lacrosse in high school. Apparently it's a sport for prissy rich kids, and not manly like football or baseball. He ended his rant by saying, hey, we're just a big Italian family. We're loud and tell it how we see it. Ha 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 ha. And all the family except my girlfriend laughed, so I, for the next minute, responded to everything they said in Italian. My girlfriend buried her head in shame. The grandfather laughed and everyone else kept looking at each other confused before telling me they didn't speak Italian. I replied, then don't use your Italian heritage as an excuse to behave poorly when you can't even speak the language. They got mad, but the grandfather told them all I was right and to be quiet. My girlfriend isn't mad, just ashamed, and I think the grandfather likes me, but word from my GF sister is that all the men are furious. Think I'm a smartass and that I disrespected them and their masculinity in an unforgivable way. So, am I the a-hole? Lamau. The pure savagery from what you said and did is so golden. You totally won the heart of your GF's grandfather, and I wish I had that kind of grandfather, but mine is an a-hole. You and your GF are lucky to have each other, not the a-hole, sending good vibes. Not the a-hole. It sounds like the boys were hoping to put you through a hazing ritual, and you weren't biting it, them in their place. And Grandpa approved. Nah, bro, you're not the a-hole here. Putting Italian New Jersey folk in their place. I would pay to see that happen in real time. Am I the a-hole for making a scene of my adult son and sticking my nose in his marriage? Here's the important background. My daughter-in-law, 32, and son, 33, have 3 children aged 3, 2, and 4 months. He convinced her to be a stay-at-home mom and sell her business by telling her how good of a childhood he had and how happy my marriage was without telling her, which I found out today. That our arrangement was everything before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. was split 50-50. Sunday was my day off and I was brought out twice a week. On to the story. On my last visit, I noticed my daughter-in-law was struggling mentally, so I, my sister, 55F, and her girlfriend, 53, pulled our money together and paid for a spa weekend for them while we babysit the kids for her birthday last weekend. I was preparing on Thursday evening for the kids to arrive when my daughter-in-law rang me holding back tears saying that we won't be going because my son's friend came to town and he said he wanted to spend the weekend with his friends catching up. I pressed her a little, and I'm talking a little about her situation, and she came clean about him doing no chores, no date nights, and her basically doing all of the childcare because that's what stay-at-home moms do. I was honestly disgusted, and I convinced her to drop me off the kids and bring a friend to the spa. I even dipped into my savings to give her $500 to buy herself something nice. When she dropped me off the kids, I begged her to tell me where her son was. After 5 minutes, she told me the bar. She left for the spa while I left for the bar. She knew I was going there and knew my sister/my sister-in-law were taking care of the kids. Here's where I might be the a-hole. When I go to the bar where he and his friends were, I sat down next to the group and asked my son, did I fail you as a mother or was it your father? Because we both thought your partner comes before your silly drunk friends. The post is getting long enough, but long story short, short, I humiliated him and got myself banned from a bar. My daughter-in-law said she will be taking the kids to her parents when she gets back tomorrow, and my son is calling me an a-hole for humiliating him and sticking my nose in his marriage. Maybe I should have stayed out. I don't know. Not the a-hole, but your son sounds like an a-hole. He convinced her to become a stay-at-home mom so he could avoid being a dad. Not the a-hole. Good on you for sticking up for your daughter-in-law. Your son needs a serious reality check. 3 babies and all the chores? He's nuts. Not the a-hole. Your son needed to hear this. Bad behavior from the son. The son, marriage is a commitment. Having kids together is a commitment. And if you don't want to be committed to having kids, don't have kids. And don't put it all on your wife because you think that she can be a stay-at-home mom while you do nothing. It's messed up. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my artist hid their initials in my tattoo? I went to a tattoo shop in my area with a photo of the tattoo I wanted. It was one of my dad had gotten to honor my past grandfather, whose father also had it. But the point is, it was important to me that the tattoo looked exactly as it did in the photo. I get to the shop and I explain everything, and I pay, get the tattoo, and we're done. I think it looks awesome. Everything's great until a few weeks later when I show my great-grandmother the tattoo. She's static, grabbed my arm to look at and compliment it, and then asks, "Who's AJ?" I asked her what she means, and she points out on the tattoo where the initials A and J, or maybe T, were hidden into the tattoo. I'm instantly pissed, as my artist name is Alice Trevor. She tries to assure me it's no big deal if I hadn't noticed it until now, but I still reached out to the artist, sort of irritated. They told me the style of art I got is called traditional, and it's pretty trad for all artists who do that style to do it. I demand a partial refund, and they refuse, so I complained to the owner, who made the artist give me a full refund. Now the artist is running a full smear campaign, talking about moving shops and is all kinds of crap. My sister says I'm an a-hole for pushing the issue, but I feel like at the end of the day, I told you exactly what I wanted and you didn't do that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This person straight up branded you. Not only that, this isn't even the artist's design. It's a copied design. Not the a-hole. Tattoo artists don't get to sign their work because their canvas is a human being. This is known. This is conventionally understood. Not the a-hole. I've been tattooing for almost 20 years and this is something you never do. WTF? Am I the a-hole for not saying anything about the underwear? Ominous, but okay. My 20-year-old daughter and her fiance are currently staying with us, and I love my daughter, but she is very difficult and I can't stand her fiance. I gave them a deadline to move out because I can't take it anymore. They got into massive fights the other day while my wife was out, and I guess a pair of my wife's underwear got in with their laundry, and she thought he was cheating. I think the fact she immediately jumped to cheating shows how bad their relationship is. She was waving the underwear around, and I recognized them because they had a floral print, but I just let this ridiculous fight go on. My wife came home after about 30 minutes and said they were hers. My wife asked if I didn't realize they were hers, and I accidentally laughed. My daughter burst into tears and won't talk to me. Her fiance said we're fricked and left the house, but my wife thought it was funny. Not the a-hole. If your first thought is cheating, not the other woman that lives in this house, you've got issues. You are the a-hole. I don't know why you thought it was a good idea to let her fiance get yelled at and accused of cheating for a simple mistake. There was literally no reason to not point out it was your wife's underwear. Everybody sucks here. Their relationship is bad, but it sounds like you were basically going, I guess this is my soap opera for today. Why would I say anything to stop it? That's pretty toxic too, mate. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you're gonna be an a-hole. No matter how toxic their relationship is, you have no reason to purposely make it worse. It's messed up. Am I the a-hole for making fun of a white girl for being poor because she was being racist? I'm Asian. More specifically, one of the only Chinese people in my grade, which has been absolutely fun these days. So the girl in question has been racially harassing me since the beginning of lockdown, and when she DM'd me and said, "Did the bat taste good? Thanks a lot, you freaking freak," I reported her to my school, and they literally just dropped it because they said tensions were high and she couldn't be blamed because her uncle had corona, some BS like that. Then I got repeated messages like that from fake/newly created accounts that I suspect were from her, and I just keep blocking them until I guess she gave up because I wasn't reacting. My school district has chosen to do in-person, massively dumb IMO, but whatever. On the literal second day of school, she walks up to me while I'm in lunch line and says in a thick Asian accent, "Are you eating bat dumpling or dog noodle?" Other people around me freaking laughed, and I'm sure I don't have to explain this, but I felt freaking humiliated. It finally felt like I got off her back for a little while, and she comes back as soon as school starts, and I already know my school administration isn't going to go to bat for me. I don't know a lot about this girl, since obviously I try to avoid her, but I did know that she had bad teeth, lived in a trailer, and was very poor. I'm ashamed to have stooped to this, but I just wanted to show her how I felt for once. So I said, I'd be less concerned with what I'm eating if I were you, and more worried about your diet, since you're the one who needs to figure out how to brush your teeth in a trailer with no running water. Stop trying to get sent to the hospital when you can't afford healthcare. Other students nearby told me I went too far because it wasn't her fault she was poor, like it was my fault I was Asian. She literally cried, like I didn't cry every time she called me an effing C-slur. She's left me alone since then though, which doesn't matter since I plan on transferring anyways. Not the a-hole. Yeah, two wrongs don't make a right, but this was the only way to get her to STFU. Don't dish stuff out if you can't take stuff back. If racist you be, get no sympathy from me. I think that's poetry for not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You went through the appropriate channels and were ignored. You did what you had to do to protect yourself. I agree. If someone's gonna make fun of you for being a race, a specific race, for being Chinese, you can go to bat and make fun of them for being poor. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Am I the a-hole for taking back the beer I bought for a party from which I was uninvited? This happened just a few hours ago. I'm a 19-year-old man, and the people calling me an a-hole are 18-year-old men and women. On Thursday, a person I had a major crush on in high school, but who rejected me, messaged me out of the blue. She had never contacted me without me contacting her first, and at one point I realized she had me blocked on social media. And so I found it odd that she was suddenly being friendly. After sending a couple of greetings and questions about how I've been, she said that she was going to have some people over and wanted to know if I would get the beer. The drinking age where we are is 19, and she and the people who were going to chill were all 18. The liquor stores in my area all card. I thought it was silly that me being a month older meant I could go buy liquor and they couldn't, and so I said I would love to go. She said thanks, I'll pick you up at 7. 7 o'clock rolled around and she texted me to say she was in front of my house. I went out dressed and ready to chill with some people, and she drove me to the liquor store, and when we got there, I asked what beer she wanted me to get, and she told me to get Budweiser. I hid my disappointment as well as I could, but it was her party, so I went in and bought 2 cases of 24. I got back in the car and said, let's party, and she was eerily quiet. I noticed that she wasn't driving towards her neighborhood, but rather back to mine. I thought she had moved or something, but didn't want to press the issue. When she turned down my street, I finally figured it out. She was being purposely vague about the invitation because she wanted me to get the beer, but she wanted a way out when she told me I wasn't actually invited in the first place. She stopped in front of my house, leaned over, kissed me on the cheek, and said thanks in her best voice. I deadpanned her and asked when she was going to tell me I wasn't invited. She feigned surprise and said that she never intended to invite me in the first place. I sat in silence for a long, awkward minute, picked up the beer, and walked towards my front door. She got out of her car and frantically tried to re-invite me to the party, but I told her that what she did was the most humiliating thing that ever happened to me. I opened my front door, slammed it a bit too hard, and came back to my room. Now I'm sitting here drinking absolute unpalatable water and have a text message from all of her friends and her asking me why I'm being such a d***. I don't think I'm the a-hole for reacting the way I did, but if you haven't figured it out, I'm not amazing socially, so I'm not sure. Am I here? Not the a-hole. I would have loved to see her face when you took the beer with you. Good for you. FYI, if you have a decent skillet, you can cook some bratwurst in those beers, cook down the remaining liquid into a syrup, and add it to some mustard for a really tasty meal. The best possible fate for those beers. How is this a question? If they want you to buy alcohol for their party and not invite you to their party, and you don't give them the beer, you're not the a-hole. They are the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for not letting my miracle baby niece be my flower girl at my wedding? My 27F older brother and sister-in-law, both mid-30s, just welcomed their first child a year and a half ago. After years of trying, after many failed attempts, sister-in-law was told that she wouldn't be able to conceive due to a medical condition she has. They finally got pregnant. Since having my niece, the baby has been the center of attention at every family, even we've had since she was born. Birthdays, weddings, family get-togethers, you name it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my niece, but it can get to be a little too much when my sister-in-law goes on and on about how long they've tried to conceive, complications they've had, miscarriages they've had, etc. Like a little too much info. Many family members have commented on how it's a little bit excessive, but no one has said anything because they don't want to sound like an a-hole. Anyway, I'm getting married in the spring, and my brother and sister-in-law approached me last weekend about having my niece be the flower girl. Now, my fiance, 35M, has 2 children, 10M and 6F, from his previous marriage. His son is one of the groomsmen, while his daughter had asked to be our flower girl, and we told them the news that we are getting married a year ago. As it's something she always wanted to do, of course we said yes. So I explained this to my sister-in-law when she asked about my niece. She asked if my stepdaughter can just carry my niece with her. I said I don't think she'd be comfortable with that considering she's 6. She then asked why I can't give the role to my niece and allow her to carry my niece down as the flower girl. I said no because I already promised my stepdaughter. She then started going off about how my lack of effort to incorporate my niece is disgusting to her and I should honor her in some way since I know how long and how hard they tried for my niece. Now I may sound like an a-hole for this, but I kind of got fed up and snapped and said, incorporate my niece how? By the time the wedding comes around, she'll be 2 years old. The entire family already knows your story about how long and how hard you guys tried for her. What more do you expect me to do to honor her? She started crying and said that clearly I don't love my one and only niece and I'm letting her down. I said of course I love my niece and obviously she's getting to be involved in pictures and stuff, but I'm not going to let my stepdaughter down by giving my niece a role she's too young to remember anyway. Well now, my sister-in-law and my brother are pissed off with me for not letting my niece be flower girl and are running around telling the rest of the family I don't love my niece. My mom had been trying to stay neutral but thinks my stepdaughter would understand if I explained to her I need to give the role to my niece. I'm firm in my decision though, and my fiance is thankful that I didn't let his daughter down. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my niece to be the flower girl? Not the a-hole, she's their miracle baby, not yours. The fact that they want you to disappoint your soon-to-be stepdaughter in order to make their daughter the focus of your wedding is absurd. Not the a-hole. Your wedding, your choice. Your sister-in-law is lucky you didn't say no children under X age because that is becoming super popular. That it will. When I get married, there's not going to be kids allowed at the wedding. I don't want kids at my wedding. What the hell? Not the a-hole, by the way. Am I in the wrong for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? I, 29F, dated a guy, Joe, 30M, for 3 months before he left left me to go back to his ex, Kim, 30F. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant, and now I'm at 24 weeks, and I let him know he was ecstatic. Turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he's always wanted to be a father. Getting back together was out of the question for both of us, so he's still with his girlfriend. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID-19, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim she had a mental breakdown about her infertility and she wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house, and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to go to a home birth, that I needed to formula feed so that they could have the babies half the week, and that she wanted one boy and one girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama since they would be calling me mommy. I shut her down and said I would make the best choices for my children and my body, and left. Kim continued to be overbearing and texting me every day about my eating habits, exercise habits, and bitching about how her job wouldn't let her take maternity leave. At the virtual genetics counseling appointment she attended instead of Joe and took over the whole meeting trying to talk about her family history, which wasn't relevant. When it came time for my 20-week level 2 scan, they allowed me one guest, and Joe suggested I take Kim instead of him, which I refused to do. Joe did end up coming and found out the gender because I wanted to keep it a surprise for me so we could throw a gender reveal party. I put up a pregnancy announcement on my social media, and then she put up an announcement saying they were expecting twins, the non-traditional way, and how blessed she was. I was irritated, but I kept my mouth shut. Then she threw a gender reveal party and posted it on social media, and I wasn't even invited. Wow. She also announced that she's having a baby shower. I commented on her post and told her to stop treating me like a surrogate, and that the kids weren't hers, and that Joe didn't have any claim or custody of the kids until they're born. I then called Joe and reiterated all of this and stated that I would not be seeing either of them until we went to family court, and that my mother would be my birthing partner. He and Kim and some of her friends and family are saying I'm an a-hole. And her mother even called and insisted I give her one of my babies like this is a parent trap. So am I the a-hole? Get a lawyer ASAP. This woman is crossing so many boundaries, and she's not even Joe's wife. Not the a-hole. Lawyer up and keep all the records and messages you can. Kim is a crazy motherfucker. Like, oh my god. Not your kids. You have no claim to them. Absolutely no claim to them. Ugh.